say Chole faces a difficult task as China confronts devastating food shortages brought on by a third consecutive year of record drought. With food and other commodity prices soaring and the country already battered by the worldwide depression, an estimated 40% of the Chinese male working-age population is out of work. In Chinese-occupied Tibet, 6 persons were shot to death by soldiers during housing prices hit new record low in U.S. Washington, D.C., AP Fox News. The FDIC today released a report showing that house prices in the U.S. had reached their lowest point in 50 years when adjusted for inflation. Analysts caution, however, that the statistics are somewhat misleading, as rampant inflation in the food sector over the past 2 years has skewed inflation numbers skyward. The unprecedented rate of inflation is due to decreased crop yields throughout much of the world and the consequent pressure on American farm prices. If we were in a period of normal inflation, say only 3 or 4%, said John Turano, analyst for the HSBC Key Banco, the world's largest bank, then the decline in house prices would be only about twice what we saw in early 2009. Still, Turano and others admit that the downward pressure on housing prices will put more families in jeopardy. The bankruptcy reform laws passed last year failed to lower the number of filings. Brighton Beach Renaissance continues. London, Reuters Gannett News Service. Sally Smith frowned as she pulled into the parking lot B of the new Brighton Motor Park. The sign at the entrance flashed full, even though it was only 8:30. "Balls," said Smith in frustration as her 2 little girls complained sleepily in the rear seat that they wanted to get swimming. "It's getting so you have to come an hour before dawn to get a parking spot." Smith's problem is cause for celebration among the owners of hotels and tourist spots in this seashore town, which until 2 years ago was a boarded-up ghost, 50 years past its glory. Now, thanks to a climate shift that has raised the average year-round temperature in southern England to a balmy 78 degrees, Brighton is booming. In March, where once the average high temperature was a damp 8.3 Celsius, or 47 degrees Fahrenheit, sunbathers must be careful in the afternoons to avoid sunstroke. Last week, the temperature peaked at 32 Celsius, or 89 Fahrenheit, which would have been a near record for August just 2 years back. Scientists say the warm-up is due to a number of factors besides the general trend of global warming. In Brighton's case, the combination. Personal Chronicle, looking back to 2014. To my beloved grandson Marcus. Here is the continuation of our family chronicle I promised, picking up in the winter of 2014. It seems like only yesterday that this all took place, and yet the time before it seems buried further in the past than ancient Rome. So much has changed, and nearly all of it caused by the conflicts that erupted that year. In the year 2014, the violent changes in the weather and climate began to take their toll on the world in ways that many had feared, but few had spoken of. Violence increased everywhere. In the cities, in the suburbs, even in farm country where our family lived. But it was the violence between nations that came to dominate our thoughts and nightmares that year. Our family had been one of the lucky ones. Like most of our neighbors, we had benefited greatly from the rising crop prices. Our corn was worth twice what it had been less than 5 years before, and the yields, due to the latest genetic advances, were practically 3 times as high per acre. Best of all, there were ready markets for anything we could grow. Prices for nearly everything were shooting up fast, but we were still far ahead of the game, especially when compared to the people on the east and west coasts. My parents had cut back quite a bit, but mostly on things that as a kid you hardly notice: eating out, new clothes, extras. For us, the fact that we couldn't go see friends after school was probably the biggest impact. They cut back on the gas they used, though our 4-year-old hybrid got what was considered decent mileage then. The real savings came with the fuel cell engines that had only just come out.